Now, kind of some of your source for coming up with this great music, your perspective on music comes from your background, I guess, in the South Bronx and being a Puerto Rican native. Kind of tell us what it was like growing up in the South Bronx in your kind of early years, and kind of what were you like as a child? Were you always really into music, or something's kind of like progressed along as you developed?
You know what? I would say probably progressed. I think for me, I say it's divine intervention because it was put in front of me. I started playing trumpet at the local boys club when I was 12. And I remember the teacher saying, oh, this kid's going to be good. But after about a year and a half, I was having problems with the embouchure for trumpet. And he tells me, why don't you switch to saxophone or the piano? And lo and behold, somebody gave me a piano. We couldn't afford to buy one because, I mean, I come from a poor family of 11 children. I'm number 10, and we lived in the South Bronx. So that basically set everything in motion for me to begin a path into music, and initially getting involved with neighborhood musicians and neighborhood bands. And before you know it, I was already playing professionally at 17 and starting to travel at 18 and 19. But, you know, the education, and then I subsequently went to college and got an education. But what really gave me the education was playing with some amazing musicians at an early age. You know, when I was 18, 17, 18, 19, 20, I was playing with musicians who were a lot older and a whole lot better than I was. And that was the education. And arrangers too. As an arranger and as a composer, I was listening to so much music. And the truth is, Dior, during those days, you know, this music was heard from every other window and every other door where I lived. And you couldn't help that. I saw my older brothers and sisters getting ready to go partying and dancing to the music and grooving to the music, you know, as a young kid. And I couldn't help but, you know, catch the bug to how beautiful the music was. And it set everything in motion for me to now, looking back 40 years later, you know, what an incredible time that was for music and for the cultural development of our people through music. So, and I'm part of that. I'm really blessed.
Now, was there ever a point as you were kind of starting that you felt like you said, wow, this is something I think I can do as a career, professionally? Is there a moment that you kind of remember something kind of?
You know, it's funny because I never thought of it consciously that way. And people would say, okay, so you're doing music, great, 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 but what do you really want to be? And I always had that in the back of my mind, you know, like, well, what do I really want to be? But meanwhile, I was working, I was making money, I was traveling, I was already being able to afford my own apartment, I had my own car, even at 18, 19, 20. So I was already making a living. And before you know it, you know, I always had that in the back of my mind. Okay, so what do you really want to do? And then later on at 25, I went to college. I went to City College and got a bachelor's degree in music. But that really paled in comparison to the experience that I got playing with so many incredible musicians, including someone like Ray Barretto at an early age. For me to be the pianist of that band, you know, and the records are there, you know, the proof is in the pudding. Go back and listen to Reconstruction. Go back and listen to Fuerza Gigante, The Rhythm of Life, or any of those records that we did. They're great records. They're great recordings. So, yeah, that was a little bit of how it, you know, happened for me as a young musician. And I haven't worked a day in my life, man.
That's pretty awesome to realize you already had a career as you were trying to figure out which career you were going to be in, right?
Well, I don't know. I kept thinking that question was in the back of my mind. So what do I really want to be? But I was already being what I was going to be. I didn't think of it that way. But, you know, I recently saw where somebody, I think I saw it on Facebook, I saw it on television, where somebody said, if you've lived a life doing what you love, then you've won. And I thought about it and I said, wow, I guess that's me, you know, thinking about it, because I've been doing what I love. And sometimes we don't think about it that way because we're too busy mired in the, you know, the X's and O's of it, you know, how, you know, trying to get through the day, trying to get through the week, trying to get through a performance. And we're not looking at it on that level. But when you really step back and look at the whole picture, yeah, I mean, I've done what I love for over 40 years and doing it better than ever now. That's amazing. At my age, I feel like I'm doing it better than ever with one of the best bands. There's no doubt that Spanish Harlem Orchestra is one of the best bands of any kind of music. Forget about Latin music, of any kind of music that you're going to hear. That's how much that's how strongly I feel about it.
Well, we as an audience, I really appreciate you doing what you do because, for me, I think art is like a part of your soul. It helps rebuild your humanity. So thank you very much for producing that. And speaking of which, you also producing, besides your new music with Spanish Harlem Orchestra, you also did some a smaller ensemble music with a new CD called the Art of Latin Jazz. Kind of tell us about this CD.
Well, that's me putting on a different hat, so to speak. It's more delving into composition because the 10 songs on that record are my compositions, all 10 of them. And for me to stretch out more as a pianist and as an instrumentalist, it gave me the opportunity to go, to put my foot in a different direction, so to speak. And I'm really proud. The Art of Latin Jazz has gotten a lot of great reviews and a lot of great reaction, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback. And it affords me the ability and the opportunity to try it, the music on a different level, and also to really make it strictly Latin jazz as opposed to salsa, because Spanish Harlem Orchestra does Latin jazz, but the crux of what we do is salsa. But with my small project, it was all Latin jazz, all instrumental, and I had some great players. It's a quintet. I had some great players that played with me, and I'm proud of that effort as well, Dior.
Now, besides from being, one is a small ensemble versus a big orchestra, kind of what's your approach musically from a conceptual perspective?
Well, I mean, when you're dealing with a salsa orchestra and you're dealing with five horn players, rhythm section and 3 singers, there's a lot of dynamics that go into that. First of all, I think it starts with the song in terms of, what you want to interpret, and then arranging it for a band that size, it's a whole different dynamic. And then having the band play it, it's a different sensibility than, obviously dealing with 5 musicians where the piano's the focal point and you have key instrumentalists as well. But with the quintet, it was more about composition and improvising more so than Spanish Harlem Orchestra.
Okay. And kind of what was your aim in producing the CD? What did you want to do with it? What was your kind of goal for it?
I think for me, just to basically challenge myself to go in a different direction, to go in a direction that I love, because I'm a jazz fan as well. I mean, the history of jazz is America's music. And sometimes when you combine the best of jazz with the best of Latin, it's like just an amazing, it creates an amazing artistic statement for me. Something that way back when Dizzy Gillespie started, because he was a huge Latin music fan with Chano Pozo, and then Machito took the banner up, Tito Puente took the banner up also as well. There's so many musicians, Ray Barretto took the banner up in terms of a lot of Latin jazz that they did. So for me, the precedent was set with people like that and what they did, and so many great Latin jazz artists. Cal Jada is one that comes to mind, as being somebody who was integral to that concept, back in the 60s, the 70s, and 80s when I was, forming myself as a musician.
Well, it sounds very intriguing, the art of Latin jazz. So if you had to kind of boil it down to 1 or 2 things that you have to have in order to make a great Latin jazz album, what would those be?
Well, I think that, it all starts with the composition. So, because if you're going to record something, the statement that you're going to say, so it's like a great book. It all comes down to what is it you want to say? Do you have something that's of value in terms of what you're trying to say? So it starts with the composition, and then it starts with then it goes from there to the great players. Surrounding yourself by great players and people who are aware of the team concept, because you're not doing a solo record, so you're doing with other musicians, and the team aspect of what I do is very important. Also with Spanish Harlem Orchestra, I got to get people who understand our agenda, who are clear on the mission, and who are there supporting each other, to win the game, so to speak.
Well, I'm sure you guys have won for sure. And again, I'd like to thank you for taking your time and with me today. and sharing your story and your music. And for those who are interested in kind of checking out your music, how can they do so? And I know we also have a show coming up, like you said, April the 28th on a Saturday at the Rialto. So kind of tell us about those and how people can either purchase tickets or check out your music.
Well, certainly, I would go to the Rialto Theater in Atlanta. You know, their website, I don't have it at hand, but maybe you can, you know, put that on the screen. Certainly, it's a great place to have, you know, to go see music live. But as far as they can find out about my music, you can go to SpanishHarlemOrchestra.com or OscarHernandezMusic.com. I have two websites, and they're both geared toward you know, explaining my music, the concept of what I do, and I'm really proud of both. So if you get a chance, you know, go out there and purchase the music and support. I strongly urge you, because we need to support. You know, as much as there is great music to be heard, if you know that music doesn't get the support of the people and is not heard, then you know it's like a tree falling in a forest. You know, where you know nobody's there to hear it. You know, it doesn't matter, right? So we urge people to always support live music, to support the arts, and support. You know, hey, music saved my life. Like I said, I'll say that. You know, totally honestly from the heart. I came from poor beginnings, you know, in the South Bronx, you know, and a lot of people where I come from weren't as fortunate as I, you know, now I've traveled all over the world. I've met some amazing people. I've worked with some amazing people. I've recorded with some amazing people, shared the stage with some amazing people. So I'm totally blessed coming from where I come from. And it's the power of music. So I think we all need to support the arts. But I thank you, my brother. Thank you for sharing my story and educating people, you know, because that's important that people learn about culture and music and arts, and it's people like you that are helping making it happen, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate it, and thank you as well. You know, we live to, you know, support what you guys are doing, and without what you guys doing, you know, I have nothing to do. So thank you very much. I appreciate the art. Again, we're here with Oscar Hernandez, and he's going to be performing on Saturday, April the 28th, with the Larry Harlow Latin Legends Orchestra. So make sure you go check that out. We appreciate it. Thank you again. We'll see you next time.
Peace and blessings.